All right, let's continue on with our chapter review, IA 210 Robotics. We're continuing on with chapter 13. Chapter 13 is a very high level chapter, talks about robots in a very general way. Now, I've tried to provide you as many examples online as I could with lots and lots of different robot system videos that are sprinkled throughout the D2L. So you should already be familiar, generally speaking, with a robot. And the point that this chapter has is, why would we want to use a robot? Where in a manufacturing facility would we use a robot? And so I like to highlight some key things. So I think the book is quite good in this particular topic. There are some incorrect assumptions, which I agree on. The idea that robots automatically increase productivity. Intelligent robots can do the same job as trained workers, save costs. Large investment in robotic pays off in time. These are all false. In general, if you're just popping a robot in, a single robot to replace a single human, it's never going to be profitable. Never going to be profitable. In general, you have to have the right reasons to install a robotic system. And just replacing a personnel, then it's really never going to be a sufficient reason to do that. If you want to put a robot in, you need to start talking about changing your work process so that robots can do the job more effectively. Hold on here. So we're going to talk about changing the robots so that your manufacturing process is often changed. A direct replacement never works, and I want to highlight what they say at the bottom of page 356. Now, once you've changed your manufacturing process to allow for an automated area, which might include robotics, then in general, you get your big payoff once you start running that robot for 3, 4, or 5 shifts. So it doesn't make sense to have a robot doing a job that you're running only one shift or occasionally, unless it's an extremely hazardous job, in which case the robot is worthwhile just to save human lives. For the most part, robotics or automation of any process come to pay off for higher volumes of work, specifically designed for robotics. And they give you a little bit of slightly antiquated data about how robots are being rolled across many parts of the world. And you'll notice that they indicate that in the US, we're sort of behind other parts of the world in terms of industrial robots. And this is the list right here. These are the primary reasons why you would want a robot. Hazardous materials is top of the list. Dangerous environments, hazardous machines, extreme temperatures or pressures or anything like that. Heavy materials that hurt people, poor lighting, high noise, strain and fatigue, dirty environments. These are all the places where you would optimally consider robotics. And then the evaluation for a process for a robot, making sure you've got the right robot for the job. They give you some key points here. I'm not going to dive through their points. They're interesting and worthwhile. And then they hit on some really important things, such as the advantages. And they hit on some advantages I think are critical. Robots can improve product quality because of their accuracy and repeatability. That is really, really an important advantage. Also, robots, in some situation, reduce personal injuries and increase employee safety. So that's a very key point. Disadvantages are often more related to cost than anything else, but also disadvantages mean in terms of flexibility. If you build a robot system that's inflexible, can't be, moved over and used for some other application, then you find yourself locked into one manufacturing process. Whereas if you stick to a more flexible process, you have the ability to move rapidly from one kind of manufacturing to a different. So there are some disadvantages there. The economic justification, the book goes through some key points. And the main product is, can you make more of it? Can it be better quality? Can you make it faster? You know, these are all things that you might look for robotics. And then obviously the non-economic justifications are more people related. You don't want to have a terrible environment for your workers. And this right here is key. Is your organization ready for robots? Someone like Rice Fruit might have a robot or two, but are they ready for robots? In other words, do they have a product and a mental kind of process that makes sense for a highly automated robotic environment? And the answer might be no, it might be yes, but the key is you have to have your organization ready to do that. You got to build a plan. You got to construct some equipment maintenance. So this is all about preparing the robotic implementation plan. Review your existing equipment, match the robots, define the proposal, begin implementation, train everybody, put together a maintenance program, and then I guess, install it. They don't mention that part. So this is just a really good chapter talking about a smattering of robot installation procedures.